From tutoring and making $12,000 to $15,000 a month to running an online coaching business and making over $48,000 per month inside of his coaching business, Carson is an absolute G. I just did a one-on-one interview with Carson that you're about to watch, and it was at our collective event in Arizona where we had 30 of our clients fly in to hang out, and he just crossed his first $40,000 a month. He's been only doing this for like 3 or 4 months since May. So my man is absolutely crushing it, and I want you to see what you can take away from this interview. Without further ado, let's jump right in. Dude, you're crushing it right now, and I'm excited to talk about your story. Can you give me, I want to hear a little bit of the story about the whole like investment banker deal turned ACT online millionaire coach. Can you just give me like the background of like why investment banking? How'd you get into that? And then how did you quit?
Yeah, well, it all started when I was born and raised in Tampa, Florida. Pretty sweet place, by the way.
Tampa, Florida. The salesman for Tampa, Florida.
Yeah. The backstory is I get a commission for every person who moves to Tampa. So
yeah.
Tampa, Florida, great place.
So where'd you go to college?
I played baseball back in high school. Wanted to keep playing in college, so had the chance to do so at the University of Chicago. Division III, so nothing too crazy.
Yeah.
But pretty much everybody there goes in, studies economics, goes into either investment banking or consulting. Investment banking makes a little bit more money, so that's pretty much what I did.
And did you go to college to play baseball there, or did you go to college knowing like I'm going to become an investment banker afterwards?
I went into college knowing that I wanted to play baseball, and I knew that it was D3, so I was like, I'm going to play a couple years, like kind of ride off into the sunset.
Yeah.
Hang the cleats up, and then go make some money. I didn't know anything about like investment banking or finance or anything, but I knew that U Chicago had a good economics degree, and the people that came out of there made a lot of money. So I was like, well, might as well do what everyone else is doing that makes a lot of money. So
yeah, so you have 4 years of college. You start the investment banking job.
Yep.
Right. You do it for 10 months.
Yep.
And then what happens?
Well, I think actually, so backing up, summer between junior year and senior year, did the investment banking internship. Okay. That's kind of how it works. You get the internship.
Yeah.
If you do well, you get the full-time return offer.
Okay.
But realized kind of during that internship, it was like, okay, this is not like going to be something that I do forever. If I do it, it'll be, a couple years and then go do something else.
Yeah.
Just didn't like how much work you had to put in.
Yeah, like the internships like 80 hours a week too.
Yeah. The internships are 80 to 100 hours a week.
Yeah, they're not making it sound like real sexy before you do it.
Yeah, no.
It's hard.
No, they're throwing you into the fire during the internship.
Okay, so you start the investment banking job, but you have an understanding I'm only going to do this for a couple of years till I figure out what's next.
Yeah. I did not want to become like some rainmaker investment banker at like 40 years old. I didn't want to spend 20 years building my investment banking career up to then like finally make a ton of money at the end of it.
Okay. Sweet. So then what was the decision to quit? Like what led up to that decision? Was there like a moment you were like fed up? You like walk into your boss's office and just I'm out, or like what was that moment?
So it actually, I think one of the turning points was like the week of Thanksgiving of like my first year. So I started the job in like July or August or something. And then Thanksgiving, like November, we're supposed to like at least have like maybe a day or two off for like Thanksgiving to go like spend time with family and stuff.
Yeah.
And we ended up working like 110 hours the week of Thanksgiving.
Bro.
And I think we got a little bit of time off like on the actual day of Thanksgiving, but like the day before we were crushed till like, 3 a.m, whatever. The Wednesday
insane.
Before.
Dude, if I work a good like 9 to 5 during a day, I'm like, that felt like an amazing day. Like that's 40 hours a week. I cannot imagine 110. That's insane.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't get to go see your family for Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Well, so I was literally on like we went over to the East Coast of Florida. And so I was with them. I was just in my room working on a laptop, hunched over my desk.
Got it. So that was like one of the moments that
was one of the moments, and pretty much at that same time, my younger sister was applying to college, and she was going through the whole like test taking process, like taking the ACT, all that stuff. And so I helped her out a little bit, got her a little bit of a better score than what she started out with. And then some of her friends took notice and were like, hey, like what did you do here? Like how did you get a 33 on the ACT? And she was like, oh well, my brother helped me out a little bit. So
can you give me just a really brief, like I have no idea what a good ACT score is. So can you just give me like a brief, like what's the range?
Yeah, so range is 1 to 36. Average in the US is like 19.5. Perfect score is 36.
Okay.
I think anything above like a 30 is like really, really, really good.
Got it. Sweet. Okay, cool. And so your sister's taking it. You help her out with it, gets her a better score than she would have otherwise.
Yeah.
So then her friends are asking you like, hey, can you help me too?
Yeah, exactly.
And so you start tutoring them?
Yeah, so I start tutoring them and realized that, and I had kind of all along known that like parents wanting to get their kids into college is like they're willing to invest a lot of money into like a good advisor for the college process or a good tutor for like the tests that get you into college, which is like the ACT and the SAT.
Yeah, sweet. So you start tutoring people, and are they paying you? Is it free at this point?
Yeah, so I worked with my sister for free, worked like very informally with a couple of our friends for free at first, and then they started paying me as well. And then I was like, okay, the market here is huge. I don't really know exactly what I'm gonna do, but I'm gonna do something here. And so kind of the mixture of like having that opportunity there, realizing that there was a business opportunity, didn't know exactly what the process was going to be like, but knew that there was some way to make money there, and the being fed up with the job kind of all led to just saying, okay, like this is what we're going to go all in on this.
Yeah. Did you know that you like wanted to be an entrepreneur or start a business, or were you kind of just like falling into it kind of on accident?
Yeah, so the wheels started turning during that junior year internship. And actually during that internship, I was like thinking of what are all the ways that I can make money like with my own business. And I actually started a YouTube channel giving out like trying to teach people how to like buy stocks and stuff.
Nice.
And went nowhere with that, was terrible in front of the camera and all that stuff. But like the wheels had been turning for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what did you start off hourly tutoring?
So when I first like was starting off, I was working with kids one-on-one hourly. They would pay me by the hour. And even just to get clientele and to get the experience of like working with students and teaching them to do things, I reached out to a bunch of people on Facebook for free and offered to tutor their kids for free. So some of my sister's friends started paying me just like, literally, I was like, pay me like whatever you feel like it's worth. And then reached out to other people. So I was probably getting paid like $50 an hour or something from them.
Okay, cool.
But also on the other, I guess, just to get more experience I was reaching out to people cold on Facebook and Facebook Messenger, offering to teach people for free. And so taught a bunch of students for free, taught some students for paid, and then also got into a platform that connects students with tutors. And there started out like, again, like $15 an hour, as low as possible.
Yeah.
And then once my calendar was filled up with students, then I was like, okay, now it's time to raise the prices.
Got it. Sweet. Okay. When was the moment, and I want to jump back in a second, but like when was the moment you were like, okay, this could be a legitimate business versus sort of like a freelancer hourly rate kind of deal? Yeah.
So I think, well, I guess I kind of realized it was going to be a business when I jumped, like I was charging people at one point $95 an hour. And I was like, there's no way that people are going to be willing to pay more than $100 an hour. That was a limiting belief that I had.
Yeah.
And at one point I think I had like 60 hours of one-on-one sessions in 1 week, at that $95 an hour. And I was like, okay, well, I cannot take on any more students. So I just set my price on that platform up to $135, and I was like, no one's gonna buy this, no one's gonna like sign up with me, but at least like I'll stop, like I'll like have some time to like breathe when people stop booking in sessions with me. And then what happened is that more people actually booked in sessions because of the higher price. So like more people started reaching out to me, and that was when I was like, okay, this is scalable in some way. I didn't know exactly what it was gonna be, but I was like, there's a huge opportunity.
Yeah. And how are you feeling at this time? Are you like overwhelmed? You're working too much? Are you like, I cannot do this forever? Are you like loving it because you have freedom now?
Yeah, I think it was a mixture of everything, because I was in charge of my own schedule, but I didn't know when to. There was nobody telling me to stop working. And coming from coming from the investment banking world was like, you don't stop working, really.
Yeah.
So I was still kind of in that mindset of like, I need to work as much as I possibly can.
Yeah. So then how long did you do that until May was kind of where things turned from freelancer, tutor to coach?
Yeah.
How long before May were you, how long were you during that period of time tutoring?
So I was tutoring basically all the way. I was tutoring as my full-time job from like March all the way through like March of 2020, March of 2023.
Yeah.
All the way through about May of 2024 when I converted it to like the coaching thing that it is now. And I had tried a couple different things, a couple different ways to make it more scalable.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing I tried was like a group class, saying, hey, I'm not going to work with you really one-on-one, but I'm going to put you into like a small group class of like eight or to 10 students, and we'll meet a couple times a week, and we'll do that. And ended up getting on some sales calls and stuff, and just like asking, digging into questions of like, hey, like what are you looking for with the program and stuff, and then trying to pitch a group class onto these people. And found out pretty quickly that nobody wants a group class. Everybody wants personalized attention. Yeah. And so the gears again started turning there of like how can I make this more of personalized but also scalable, and also get rid of like just this hourly thing where people book in for just like I want to buy like 2 hours of tutoring for you, like with you for like 1 week. And so then eventually when I joined your program, it was like, hey, this is kind of how we structure our coaching business. Like,
so that was in
so I saw
May?
that. Yes, that was in May.
Okay, so in May, up until May, you're making like you said somewhere between like 12 and 18 grand a month. Yep. Which is still like pretty solid for a tutor. It's like you're just working 50, 60 hours a week tutoring. And then in May, we start working together. What were the things that you changed off the bat, like immediately?
First thing I changed was got rid of the trying to sell people into a group class. Realized that nobody wants that, and then made it so that I was only meeting with kids instead of meeting like 2 hours per week on average, just meeting 30 minutes per time that we met and we just meet once a week. So meeting once a week for 30 minutes, and then also just basically assigning a group or assigning a like list of to-do items for them to do. Yeah. So like giving them some videos to watch, giving them some practice tests to go through, giving them a process to correct those practice tests, rather than just me sitting there in a session with them, spoon feeding them kind of the correct answers to different practice questions. Yeah. Okay. And so obviously just think like for the scale there, instead of meeting with kids for 2 hours a week, meeting with them for 30 minutes a week, 4x is my ability to 4x is my capacity. But you're still
kind of trading time for money a little bit, but it's just a lot more money.
Right, exactly.
For a lot less time. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, and then you were also using a VSL funnel at the time, right? Where you were like running an ad, sending people to a page with a video of Carson's face, and then just waiting for people to book in, and then probably having a really bad show up rate. Like what was the thought process behind that? Where did you learn that, and then did you change that off the bat too?
Yeah. So didn't change it right off the bat, but I should have. But learned that from, I think it was just a combination of like looking into all the different ways to market an online education product. Yeah. Russell Brunson, Hormozy, all that stuff. Yeah. The standard thing is like, just run a VSL funnel, get people to book in a call, and then if your show up rate's 50%, your show up rate's 50%.
Yeah, you just wait for people to show up. Some people show up, some people won't. And how did that? So how long? I think you continued the VSL funnel for a little bit. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So still kind of continued the VSL funnel after joining the program, but was also just doing way more on the nurturing side, especially from top of funnel profile visit ads, and then hitting people with retargeting ads and stuff like that. And then eventually turned the VSL funnel into more of like a retargeting funnel, to where people were a lot warmer when they were booking in. So the show up rate started moving higher, even with that VSL funnel.
Yeah. Okay, sweet. So then let's talk about the stages from May to June, July, August. So you went from somewhere between 12 and 18 grand a month to, I think you just cracked like a $48,000 a month, which is sick for like ACT coaching, $48,000 a month. And now you're on track to keep growing, which is awesome. What were like the key like stages, moments for you of like income growth, team growth, whatever it looked like? Just walk me through the stages of your coaching business, taking it from tutor to basically business owner now.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess the big thing was in May. Yeah. Like starting to run more of a social funnel where I was engaging with my audience and like creating an audience and engaging with them and getting my personality across on camera, like saying, hey, this is how I work with students. Like this is kind of the process that we go through, and just being very candid on camera, and then just talking about past student results and stuff. And so that just, I think, was able to channel the demand, and then having like an actual scalable business model that's like an actual business rather than just like a freelancer, kind of all combined together into some obviously pretty good numbers.
So walk me through, like, if someone's watching this and they're like doing 10 grand a month freelancing or teaching people whatever they're an expert on, but they don't have like a coaching business. Like, I just kind of want to know, like, what did you do different? Like what changed in your mind to be able to like be like, I can turn this into a business. Like, what are the key things that you've learned? Because there's a big difference between like Tutor making 12 grand a month and making 50 grand a month in a coaching business. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I would say, maybe the biggest thing was figuring out a way to package, start like kind of productizing your service and putting a lot of effort into, like, I guess for me, it was like the course modules and like the practice sections and practice tests that I was able to give to students. So rather than them needing to meet with me for a couple hours a week in order to see improvement, being able to give them a to-do list of items for them to do on their own. Because I think, and the biggest thing was maybe even just seeing how you coach your clients, which is like, I'm not here to give you the answers. I'm here to give you a process or kind of just guide you along
Empower
the way to making it so that you find your own answers. Yeah. And so I took that approach of like, my students need to find their own answers because I'm not going to be there in the testing center with them when they take the test. Yeah. So I actually need to meet with them less frequently for a lower amount of time in order for them to actually get better results. And so that was kind of a mindset shift of
what they want is the result. They don't want time with you. They want the result.
Exactly. Yeah. And so that definitely made it like infinitely more scalable. Just that mindset shift of like seeing how you can get your clients results without meeting, like we don't meet together for 6 hours a week. Yeah. And we're still able to get results.
Yeah. Sweet. Okay. So imagine the person watching this right now and they're like, all right, I have a skill. I have something that I can coach other people on, but I don't know like what's next. What do I do next? Like, what would your advice be to the person who's like starting or growing, kind of where you were at, say like 6 months ago, 4 months ago? What would your advice be to them? Like, what's the first step, the first thing that they should do?
Yeah. So if they already have a skill, I'd say that's a big caveat. Yeah. Like if you already have a skill that you can teach, then the biggest thing, if you don't have a skill that you can teach, then go just work for a year and get that skill and get the ability to teach it. And then once you have that ability to teach whatever skill you have, then figure out how you can basically make it more of a productized service where you don't have to, either it's building out the course modules or whatever, or having like a couple of action items that you can give your students or your clients or whatever you call your customers. Having a system and
a process that gets client results rather than just you getting client results. Right. Because it's really easy to just step in like, hey, why don't I just like get on a 2-hour call and explain this to you? And it's a little bit harder to take the extra step and do the extra work in the meantime, where it's like, hey, I could be spending this time coaching and making, I could be spending this time that I'm making these course modules and building these systems. I could be tutoring other people and making more money, but it's like taking a step back to build the system that gets the client results rather than you getting the client results. Right.
Yeah. And I guess maybe to just add on to that, I think taking some time to study like what actually does get you and your clients the results. Mm-hmm. For me, it was realizing, okay, we need a little bit of direction on how to take these practice tests. But once we get a good strategy, like once my students get a good strategy in their brain of how to approach, for say, like the science section of the ACT, then it's just repetition and like taking practice tests under like realistic test conditions and going through a process of correcting those tests. And so what I was doing was kind of correcting the tests for them and telling them where they went wrong. And what actually was making a difference was them seeing where they went wrong and then making like basically seeing where they went wrong and what they needed to do to get the answer correct.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
them actually being able to do it on their own sped up the process of learning.
Yeah.
And so
100%.
I think, just figuring out what actually gets your clients results, and then packaging that into in a couple of action items that your clients can take on a week to week basis.
Kind of like we talked about yesterday a little bit, like designing your hero program. One thing that I would say, like if somebody's watching this, like that I think they could take away from Carson is like a lot of people, when I work with them, they start working with me, they pay me money, and then I tell them, hey, here's what I think you should do, or here's what you should do. And they're like, all right, cool, let me kind of like half implement this. I'll take this piece, but I'll leave that one because that one sounds too hard, or that one doesn't sound like it's going to work. And then I'll implement this piece that I like. And you were like, no, I'm going to go all in. Like you had a VSL funnel that was working. You were making money doing it. And you had to take a step back and do something that you didn't know was going to make you money or not, but you had to just like trust and do it and implement, and you just took action. So like I think if anybody's watching this, one of the key things that you could take away from Carson and why he's doing 40, 50 grand a month now in his coaching business is because he just like takes action and implements.
Yeah. Take action and go all in. Like you can't listen to two masters. Pick one and pick one strategy that you're going to use, pick one coach, and follow everything that strategy says or that coach says. And if it doesn't work, then at least you know that process doesn't work.
Yeah.
But stick with it for a few months.
Works, I swear.
The proof is in the pudding.
Yeah.
But I actually have like students who will kind of do the same thing. And like we'll say, hey, this is the strategy we're going to take on the ACT reading section.
Mm-hmm. We're
going to like kind of skim through the passage and then, answer the questions that way. And then they'll go to their English teacher, and their English teacher will tell them, hey, you need to spend more time reading the passage. Otherwise you're not going to answer the questions properly. And then they're half implementing my strategy, half implementing their English teacher strategy, and they end up with no results.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's like people literally, they will pay me thousands of dollars and then be like, wait, I know you're telling me to do this, but like this other guy on YouTube says to do this. And I'm like, okay, then go pay him. Like, don't work with me. All right. What is next for you? Like, what's the next milestone? Like, I know we were talking last night and you were like, or maybe it was 2 nights ago, and you were like, dude, I honestly, like, it's still a little bit unreal that this is like, the coaching business that I'm running. Like, this is kind of crazy. Like, what is the next step for you? Like, what's the next milestone or thing you're shooting for?
Well, yeah, I think maybe I need to just figure out, or not figure out, but realize that this is real. Because, yeah, like you said, May to, we're now in September, so it's like 3-4 months going from basically being a freelancer to being an actual business owner. Still, the reality hasn't set in yet. So just seeing the consistency month over month will be a big unlock. And then from there, it's just figuring out how can I help the most students possible.
Yeah.
Continue productizing the service and maybe hiring on a team that can do what I am doing right now.
Yeah. Building a little bit of a team to help you out.
Building a little bit of a team, figuring out how to train, hire and manage a team that can do as good of a job as I can, and eventually even better than I can, because they'll be able to focus their entire time on their one specific task, whether it's working with students or managing, the marketing or whatever it may be.
Yeah. Okay. Last question. What is like there's probably been a few like belief shifts that you might have had, but like, what is the one core belief shift, or maybe there was like a moment where something clicked, an epiphany moment. What is that one moment for you? And if you don't have one, that's fine. But like, what's like one of the belief shifts you've had going from 4 months ago to now in September?
I think the biggest thing was just realizing that I don't need to spend, like, that my time spent with a student does not correlate with outcomes. The more time I spend with a student, that does not actually mean that they'll do better.
Yeah.
A lot of times, the less time I spend with a student, the better they'll do. And I think that was the biggest thing that I learned from you. The biggest belief shift that was broken early on was like, I don't need to spend, like if I'm spending 2 hours a week with a student and they're going to maybe improve their score by 4 points, going from 2 hours to 4 hours a week with a student will not get them an 8-point score improvement.
Yeah.
But actually kind of the opposite, because they need to learn how to approach things on their own without my help.
I love it, dude. Well, thanks for coming on the pod.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.